to you under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Smash that like button. Let's go. What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your favorite breast cancer survivor back with another video. So in this video, we will be reviewing the closing statement from the state in the case of Detroit versus Jarvis Butts in the unaliving of Naziah Harris. So, I respect the prosecution, the judge, and the defense did their job the best that they could for Mr. Butts. However, the evidence is stacked against him. The evidence is disgusting, although it is circumstantial. It is still overwhelming none the least. I am looking forward and hoping that there are going to be additional charges brought in this case, because Mr. Butts is not the only one that should be charged here. Is Survivor Speaks. This is my channel, my opinion. I looked at this case. I am actually, this case consumes me. So tomorrow at 9:30 a.m., Mr. Butts is bound over. The judge has decided that this case has enough evidence to go to trial. So he should be in court tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. If he is in court at that time, I will be live streaming 9:30 a.m. Because I'm going to cover that trial. Mr. Butts, he's a liar. He lied. I believe that Zania's grandmother and her aunt got on the stand and they lied. I believe they had some knowledge about this relationship that should never have been allowed to take place. And also, Mr. Butts has 5 children with Zania's aunt, Shannon Harris. And I do think that she has some type of animosity towards Zania, because the person that she was in a relationship and has children with was interested in her, more interested in her. So this man is a mess. Right now, we know that allegedly he also molested one of his daughters and gave a child under 4 years old, according to the courts, an STD media, if you will. So he's definitely somebody that needs to be held accountable. I am not God, so I don't wish the death penalty on anyone. I just wish that, he continues to wake up to Bubba every day. And however Bubba sees fit to handle him while he's behind the wall, go ahead, Bubba, and do that one. We will all be happy about that. Nothing that I'm saying is a joke. Everything that I'm saying it from the heart. I truly believe that there is no place on this earth for Mr. Butts, and where he is should be his permanent home, but he should be taken to state prison, wherever the prison is in Detroit, Michigan. Children cannot consent to any type of agreement to have any flex, F-L-E-X. I'll replace FL with an X with an adult. And so therefore this is totally on Mr. Butts. Another thing that I would like to say to the public, please, 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 I know the text messages were hard to hear. His interrogation was very hard to listen to, but that in no way should reflect on young Zanaya Harris, because he groomed her. He taught her a lot of different things. Do I think that she was taught things before he came along? They're just counting from the time where she was 12 to 13. Actually, according to Mr. Butts, children's mother, he has been around Zanaya since she was 2 years old. So I believe that he groomed her from, that age up until he impregnated her 14 and tried to give her a termination, and it went wrong, and he wound up unaliving her. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on the prosecutor for the closing argument. We're only going to be listening to the closing argument from the prosecutor. But before I bring him on, I'd like to give a shout out to one of my favorite judges. She's new on my list, Judge Leah Sabri. I can't say enough about her. I actually did a video on her the other day. Check it out. Her credentials are impeccable, and she did not come to play in this case. So, if you're joining us for the first time, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on all your notifications so you never miss our live streams or videos. And if you're watching, you could jump into the chat. Leave a message. I do read all of the messages that are left in the chat, and I respond to all of them as well. So we want to hear your thoughts and your questions about the closing argument, or if you have any questions regarding this case, just leave it in the chat, and when I go over it, I will answer you back. Okay? So let's bring on the prosecutor in this case. Let's go. All right. Here we are.
Thank you. Hesitating. Right, long hesitation. It's a complicated question. Yeah. Maybe don't ask that. Thank you for asking. Coming up. Okay, we are back on the record. This is People of the State of Michigan versus Jarvis Butts, 2459617. Are the people ready for the line of argument?
Yes, Judge, we are.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you. And before I get to the real issue on the homicide charge, I'm going to take care of a few preliminary matters. It is the people's intent to increase count 3, which is currently criminal sexual conduct second degree, to criminal sexual conduct first degree, person under 13, defendant 17 years of age or older. We have the defendant's birthday on the record, and that would be based on the testimony of the one minor witness that testified, as well as Cordell Wright's testimony. The minor witness testified that it happened at the old shop, and when Ms. Ripley was asking questions, she identified that as being the location. Cordell Wright testified back in November that they didn't move from that shop, which was at East Warren and Neff in the city of Detroit, until May or June. Based on Nazia's birthday, which is in her medical records, at that time she would have been 12 years old. And the minor witness testified clearly describing an act of penetration, specifically penis to anal opening. With respect to the criminal sexual, child sexually abusive activity, that would be based on the text messages as well as the minor's testimony as well. Combining those two things satisfies the elements of those charges. However, going to count 1 in murder in the first degree premeditated, I would like to go through and put some of the pieces together. And We are sitting here today, or standing here today in court on January 9th, 2025, which is 1 year, almost to the minute, the last time Neziah was seen on a camera in the city of Detroit, which is on the screen now. The last time that she was seen was on January 9th, 2024 at 2:56, getting off of the bus at 3 Mile Drive in Cornwall and walking down Bedford. She was walking towards what she didn't know at the time would be Jarvis Butts and her ultimate murder by him. We take that moment in time and then go to Cordell Wright's testimony where he testified that they picked Neziah up on their way back to their shop at 9000 Connor, and they proceeded with her to that location. We have Jarvis Butts' sister's testimony, Tijuana Butts, who did say that she saw a young girl with a very distinct and distinct jacket getting in and out of that car, a white Cadillac Escalade. That would have been before Jarvis, Cordell, and Neziah departed for Ypsilanti. We have Sergeant O'Rourke's testimony as to his cell phone locations based on cell tower information and the historical call detail records, which place them consistent going out to Ypsilanti. And then we have Cordell's testimony getting them back to the shop. Talacia Moore also testified to seeing Neziah in Ypsilanti with Cordell and Jarvis. Cordell, as we know, testified that he had to get back to his house based on his tether hours by 9 p.m. And that is the last time that anyone who is not Jarvis Butts would see Neziah Harris alive. From the shop, we proceed out to the Park Crest Inn, where Jarvis Butts checked into a hotel at 9:30 p.m. and Sergeant O'Rourke's testimony corroborates this, placing his phone in the area of that 20,000 Harper address at around midnight till early in the next morning on the 10th, using the data that you see on the screen in those times. Recapping January 9th, this is the last time that we have any sort of communication from Neziah. There was, if you look at those messages that Sergeant Jones went through and read, just between Neziah and Jarvis, there was consistent and constant communication up until January 9th. There's also no messages from Jarvis after Neziah goes missing on the 9th, looking for her, seeing where she is, trying to find her, trying to help, as anyone should do at that time, her family locate her. There's no messages to her phone, to that Text Now account from Jarvis Butts' phone. Her legal guardian and grandmother, Annette Harris, has not seen any social media posts. The OIC of the case, Sergeant Jones, has not seen anything for a total of 1 year now. The Lieutenant George Harris, who was involved in the investigation in the first month, didn't see anything that he saw from social media or Text Now after the 9th. Jarvis Butts on the 9th, we know, borrowed Latricia Johnson's car overnight, which was unusual. He borrowed that and then again borrowed it on the 10th or 11th. We know that Neziah's glasses were found in that car sometime after the 10th or 11th when Latricia Johnson was at that shop and Jarvis Butts snatches them out of her hand. From the Park Crest Inn and from January 9th, we go out to 7 Mile and Burke. This is by far the most important location in this case because we know that the defendant spent from 11:40 p.m. on the 10th to 1:34 a.m., nearly 2 hours in that area, in that wooded area where the Rouge River runs through. And to give, this is from the slideshow of the scene photos that were taken at 7 Mile and Burke. This is the area where it's the people's theory Jarvis Butts did at least one of two things. Either killed Neziah at 7 Mile and Burke, but at the very least dumped her body in this location. We know this because of the evidence that was found there, specifically the black hoodie, which you see in this photo here, as well as the pink bodysuit and the shoes that we confirmed or that are hers based on the picture that the OIC received from her brother. And those items were collected. The black hoodie and pink jumpsuit were tested. And importantly, Rion Green testified as to which swabs were which. This analysis here and hypothesis and result pertains to the right shoulder swab on Neziah Harris's black hoodie that she took that picture in when she was in school on January 9th. The one, importantly, that Annette Harris testified was in good condition when Neziah left. We will get to pictures of that, but this shows that Neziah Harris's DNA is there, as well as Jarvis. And importantly, this is one of the stain swabs that was positive not just for blood, but human blood based on the hemotrace results. In the next one, we have, this pertains to not the stain swabs, but the regular swab that Rion Green testified was a wearer ID swab. Importantly here, Jarvis Butts' DNA from that swab that would have been taken around the neck of that sweater, or the end of the arms of that sweater, is there with very strong support, and of course Neziah's DNA is there as well. And when we look at that sweater specifically through the PowerPoint photos that Rion Green took and put together, we can see that there is a lot of markings on this. If the court looks closely on this, and I did, there are 15 phenol-positive stain markings on this sweater. This is just the front of that sweater. And of course, the court paid attention and saw the markings or the damage to the hood, that it is the people's theory would have been stab wounds or something to that effect that happened when Jarvis Butts murdered Neziah Harris. We also have to look, and it goes to the premeditation element as well as everything he did before, at Jarvis Butts' actions, specifically what he did to attempt to conceal or cover up his role in the murder of Neziah Harris. First, we have the glasses that he made sure he grabbed directly from Latricia Johnson's hands when shown, that are consistent with the glasses she had in the photo from the 9th when she was in school. We have the jail call to Cordell Wright to get that phone of his out of Miss Davis's car and into someone else's possession, which he testified he tried to do, but was ultimately unsuccessful. And then Sergeant Jones testified that they ultimately did recover that phone from Miss Davis's car. There's the phone call to Latricia Johnson, which was played when she was testifying, saying to get anything he touched clean, to clean anything he touched, to get anything, don't drive her car, drive his mom's car, which is important because when you combine her testimony of when Jarvis Butts took her car, those 2 times on the 9th and 10th, and then either the next day or that same day, it's important because that car is the car that he transported Neziah Harris out to 7 Mile and Bird to either dump her body or to murder and then dump her body there. And we can go through all of the lies that Jarvis Butts told any detective or any officer that he testified to, but in highlighting those, he denies to Detective Mays that he was with Neziah at all or had talked to Neziah at all on the 9th, denies ever picking her up, denies to, even when confronted with the January 9th messages, he said that it wasn't him initially. Obviously, we heard in the subsequent interviews, specifically on June 1st with the OIC, he came off of that. He told Shannon Harris that Neziah texted him on the 9th. She says that he never did that. And we have some of their messages in the record as well. He denies going to a hotel and denies going to a hotel with Neziah Harris and denies having any sort of sexual relationship with Neziah, even though the text now messages completely prove that that is an absolute lie. We also have his motive. We know from Sergeant Jones that he was going to be going into custody supposedly on January 9th for until roughly December, I believe, is what Sergeant Jones testified to. We know that that date was adjourned because he said in his interview that he had a legal issue. He said it was out in Clinton Township, but I submit to this court that that's not the legal issue he was talking about. He was talking about the legal issue he would have had if Neziah had been left alive. He had to make sure that when he was in custody that she was not going to give birth to any child of his. That's his motive in this case. That's why that's January 9th. Sentencing date was adjourned to February 7th so he could take care of that potential legal issue. He was being told consistently by Neziah throughout the months that she might be pregnant, and then on 11/27, she says to him that it's hard to do this gym shit with this baby. Less than a week or 2 weeks later, he's searching on Google how to abort a baby, how to not just abort a baby or get an abortion, but how to do it at home, how to get rid of that without any medical professional or any responsible mandated reporter knowing about it. We clearly have that motive. And obviously, Judge, one of the big issues in this case is proving that Neziah Harris is dead without having a body. On January 9th, she vanished off the face of the earth. There is absolutely no evidence after the 9th that she was alive, that she was sending messages to anyone. Her, again, legal guardian had not seen her since the 9th. No one else, officers, friends, family have seen her since the 9th. There's no social media post reviewed by any officer to this day that would indicate she was alive. There's no messages, no further messages on text now after the 9th. There is a full and complete stop of any activity that would indicate she was alive. And Judge, I submit to this court that if that were the evidence that we had at this point, that would be enough at this point for a probable cause determination to show that she is in fact deceased today. However, there is more than that. Her hoodie found at 7 Mile and Berg, which we just saw a photo of, has Jarvis Butts' DNA on it and Neziah Harris's DNA on it, and it is covered in blood, indicating that something traumatic happened to her. And all the other evidence shows that something traumatic happened to her at the hands of Jarvis Butts. And then we go back to his motive. Was told by Neziah that she was pregnant, searched all of the home abortion procedures, and was going to go into the Wayne County Jail until December, which we just passed, of 2024. Judge, I submit to this court that the evidence that you have heard over the last 4 days proves not only that Neziah Harris is currently deceased, but also that she was murdered by the defendant, who had plenty of motive to do so, had plenty of opportunity to do so, and he did that. And I will note that the defendant in this case, Jarvis Butts, does not get a break because he successfully hid her body. The evidence to a probable cause determination, which the question is she probably dead, and did the defendant probably do that? Both questions are answered with a yes, based on all of the evidence that you have seen. I would reserve any further argument for rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
And so that is the first part of the prosecutor's closing. He's going to reserve the rest of his closing once the defense goes on and does their closing. However, today we're not listening to the defense's closing. We're going to just skip right back to the prosecutor's rebuttal closing, and then we're going to get out of here. This is such a tragedy. The world is finally has their eyes open, and the world is watching. And I must say that there are 2 family members that attempted to have law enforcement come and arrest Mr. Butts, her great aunt Janelle, and a cousin of Neziah's. However, they did not pay any attention. They called more than one agency, so CPS did not do their job, and it was told by Neziah's mother. And shout out to the YouTuber that spoke with Neziah's mother and interviewed her. She's saying that her mother is not supposed to have any children in her custody, which explains a lot. And excuse me for getting excited, because if that is the case, and she knows her way around CPS, then for not just for what happened to Naziah. She needs to be charged for that also. I don't care. CPS, they need to be spoken to and charged. So these, if they are overworked, then they need to hire more CPS workers. That is normally the excuse of why, things slip through the crack. And they don't get a pass for that. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get to the defense closing. I just have a couple more things to say. As you can see, Jarvis Butts is a coward. He has been sitting there with his head down the whole entire time until the prosecutor showed the evidence on the screen. He did look up at the screen. I don't know if it's going through his mind. Maybe I should just take a plea, because they have overwhelming circumstantial evidence against him. So who knows what the punk is going to do. I have no apologies for saying what I feel and saying what I believe that Jarvis Harris is. I couldn't imagine being in the shoes of Naziah's mother, no matter what issues and problems that she's going through now. Apparently something happened with her and her mother. And my condolences goes out to the mother of Naziah in this case. I am going to show her a little grace, and I have sympathy and empathy for her, because Naziah was not in her care. But she made sure that Naziah, got a cell phone. So who's to say, whether or not they were communicating or not. And I'm not understanding why Naziah's grandmother, Annette Harris, has a GoFundMe when there is a rap artist that already agreed to paying for her funeral. Okay, so anybody see that GoFundMe, please do not donate. There is a rap artist, and excuse me for not having his name readily available, but he has already stepped up and said he's going to pay for all of the funeral arrangements for Naziah. Okay, so do not give your money to this lady. She got enough money out of Naziah. I'm pretty sure she was getting some type of check or something from Naziah. She has other foster kids in her home that need to be removed immediately. And also her aunt's kids need to be removed immediately as well. Shannon Harris. And nobody's going to tell me that they didn't know this was going on. Okay. And so now, all that comforting them and doing all of that is out the window for me. The real ones that need to be comforted are the two family members that have done the interviews and stated that they have been trying to get in touch with somebody to tell them, like, listen, this relationship between Jarvis and Naziah is not right. They were seeing the behaviors between the two of them, and the text messages are quite freaking disturbing. What he groomed and taught that young woman, okay? And so, you know what? Black men, black women, stand up and protect your children. Protect your children. But, without further ado, let's get back into this. Let's get back into this, the closing from the state.
First, Judge, I'm going to start with talking about People v. Fisher that Ms. Quick just referenced. And it is important to note that this case is distinguishable for the following reasons. One, we're talking about a different standard. This was a trial issue, a directed verdict standard, where the court is saying at trial beyond a reasonable doubt. First of all and foremost, it's distinguishable for that reason. Secondly, though, the court in Fisher said, in this case, there was no physical evidence such as bloodstains or a weapon linking defendant to Joyce's death. In this case, we have bloodstains. We have bloodstains on the hoodie that was found at 7 Mile and Berg, where the defendant spent 2 hours on the night of the 10th going into the 11th. That places them together in the same spot and is very strong evidence that Neziah Harris is in fact dead. Secondly, though, Judge, having dealt with People v. Fisher, Ms. Quick talked about the 9th and 10th, that no one saw the defendant with Neziah for that day going into the 10th and into the 11th. However, we heard from one of his significant others or girlfriends that he was secretive, that he didn't want anyone looking at his phone. And we certainly know that he knows how to keep different women and or girls away from each other. For example, I believe it was Shannon Harris that testified that she was familiar with an address of Outer Drive in Belfort, but she had no idea other than the fact that she would pick the defendant up there at different times. We know through other testimony that the defendant was dating someone that lived there. And with respect to Ms. Quick saying that Neziah never threatened him, never did anything, I'm not sure if this one text message was highlighted by the OIC in this case when she testified, but on November 27th, 2023 at 23 hours and 37 minutes UTC time, Neziah said to the defendant, "When I see you, I'm a fuck you, tell you regret not answering my calls," which I would submit to this court as a threat. And then just over a month later, she says she goes missing at the hands of the defendant. And Ms. Quick also talked about the driving around that Cordell and Jarvis were doing and how it was an unplanned meetup with Neziah on the 9th. However, that may be true from Cordell's perspective, because he wouldn't have known what Jarvis's plan was at that time. But clearly, on the 9th, send okay if you've seen the message so I can delete your number, and then the defendant's response, okay. And Jarvis was the one driving per Cordell's testimony. Now, Ms. Quick also talked about the knives and how the knives found in the defendant's car of the one that was tested came back negative, and that's true. We cannot dispute that. However, we know that that was more than a month after, giving the defendant plenty of time to clean it. But beyond that, Judge, this case is one where the defendant thought to, and successfully did, hide the body. And it's a common sense inference that if he thought to hide the body, he would also think to get rid of the murder weapon at the same time. And Judge, Ms. Quick is right. We are talking about a probable cause standard. And as I said, the question is, did the defendant with premeditation probably murder Neziah Harris? And I submit to this court that the answer is yes. And circumstantial evidence, as is noted in the jury instructions at trial court or in circuit court, is just as good as direct evidence. And yes, this is a circumstantial case, but when we put those circumstances together, including the physical evidence, the cell phone evidence, which I would equate with physical evidence for purposes of that, as well as the defendant's opportunity and motive, the picture becomes very clear that the defendant, Jarvis Butts, took the life of Neziah Harris to protect himself from the eventual discovery of his child that he was going to have with her, or at the very least thought he was going to have with her. I ask this court to bind over as charged with the addition or increase of this criminal sexual conduct second degree. Thank you.
As far Okay, and there you have it. I think the prosecutor argued his case very well. Like I said, prayers go out to Neziah's mother, the family members that cared to try and reach out to have Jarvis Butts arrested from what they were seeing. So if the family that doesn't live at the address where Neziah lives was seeing all of this, from a distance, we know the people that actually lived there was seeing this in the home. And the grandmother lied and said how Jarvis Butts never came to the home, but text messages says otherwise. And as a matter of fact, one of the text messages said, just hurry up and screw her aunt so that he can go ahead and screw her. She doesn't know that anything is wrong with that, and she was groomed that way, and that's what she was taught. And this is what, this is a sick case. And like our heart goes out to someone, to Nazaya, whose life was cut short at such a young age. She was such a pretty girl, and she was pretty active on her Instagram account, dancing, laughing. You can tell that she was a little girl. She was a little girl. And for that, Mr. Jarvis needs to go on ahead and be taken into custody. So I am going to end this video the way I end all of my videos. It wouldn't be me if I didn't end the show by raising awareness that men get breast cancer too. Because of the stigma associated with the word breast, we've started using the term peck and or chest cancer. Let's continue to break the stigma and spread awareness. To my ladies, please make sure to get your mammogram, fill up on your boobies to make sure that you are all right. And don't you dare let anybody come into your house and disturb the peace that passes all understanding. I am Survivor Speaks, and I will see you in the next live stream or video. Remember, 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, if they are streaming the court hearing for Jarvis Butts, we'll be right over here on YouTube, live streaming here on Survivor Speaks channel with Survivor Nation. Come in, and let's watch this case as it unfolds. See you guys in the next one. Peace.
Full cycle, I just might though, just like a Michael. Mama gone now, I'm thinking death is not we entitled. And it was me versus me, them battles had to fight through. And when you way in the dark, them demons try to fight you. But you can't let them when you gotta see the damn light. Diabetes came from nowhere, messed up whole life. That's what I used to think, my mama helped me out. I got one dear in the sky to make proud, don't count me out. Let's get it started, rest in peace my mama, I don't wanna talk. Fresh fit, who that little nigga, fresh the way he walk. New drip, I'm that one dude creating all the sauce. News flip, you that one do the worker, not a boss. It's safe to say that after all this, I'm standing tall. It's safe to say that after all this, I'm still gon' ball. It's safe to say that after all this, I never